I need to. I should read the. This came out a long time ago, or in May, like over a month ago. This BDay anniversary, 20th anniversary oral history article on Billboard. I was like, I need to read it, but I was like, I really don't feel like reading it. I just want to. I wish it was like audio or like an interview or something. Like all the collaborators, some kind of like interview. I was hoping for. I was thinking of because I just like I don't feel like reading. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just read it and I'll read it with you guys and give like my thoughts as I'm reading it. Probably nothing new that I know about. Um, blah 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 blah. B-Day was originally intended for a 2004 release. Okay, maybe there is stuff I'm not that I did not know. Intended wasn't wasn't Beyonce's make or break moment. Wait, B-Day, which was originally intended for a 2004 release, wasn't Beyonce's make or break moment as much as it was concept, proof of conception, proof of concept for where she would take her sound brand. Okay, I don't really care. I do remember I was just reading stuff that she was supposed to release. She was supposed to release a Dangerously in Love 2. She was like, I had so many songs. I'll just make another one. I think like a year later, like 6 months later, she said she's gonna do that, but that didn't happen. And it's, I appreciate her for not. A lot of the monsters that get on Lady Gaga about her releasing Art Pop 2. And I'm like, I'm glad she hasn't done like a sequel. There are so many albums. I was going down the list. I made a list on Twitter the other day, and it was like Dangerously in Love 2 was supposed to come out, and then there was like this Fela album. Oh shoot, there was another one. I think it was like four or three projects. There was like this Fela album, Fela inspired album with like more like end of time sound to it. That got I'm not gonna say it got scrapped, but it just never came out. And then I think sometimes as an artist you might just need to get stuff out of your system, and you don't want to necessarily go down the Prince route of putting everything out that you feel in that moment. Because if I remember correctly, Prince he like was just like pushing everything out, and then the label would not want to put everything out. So then things turned, things backfired. Or I would put this one out, he would scrap it. I think the Black album he like scrapped because it was like it's too like demonic or something, and then he went on to do Uppers. So um, I appreciate that B hasn't necessarily gone back. If she does go back in the vault, it's like to rework a song, or like I think somebody said from four, I believe, Yaya was like the bones or certain parts of Yaya was from four. So it's like, or and then Thick also. Thick, she went way back into time, into her vault, and pulled it out parts of that and reworked it. So like I think that's what her thing is. Um, she delayed its follow up release to record Destiny Fulfilled. I guess you can say that. The final Destiny Child album. I mean, like they said that we're gonna get back together, so I don't know if that's delaying it. That was the main focus of Destiny Child. Whatever. I get too analytical. In which she starred in the lead role. Okay, nobody cares. Beyonce, nobody cares. The anthology. Listen. Ring the alarm. Pink Panther check on it. Met Gala. Okay, whatever. Let's just get to The people talking. The words surprise and secret have become synonymous with Beyonce ever since she unleashed her Epimonia's 2013 studio album onto the world with no prior notice. But her affinity for moving in silence actually dates back to BDay. According to 2006 Billboard profile, when it came time to work on her second solo album, Beyonce didn't even tell her manager, who also happens to be her father. The record was largely created in a stealth mode, with Beyonce tasking A&R Max Goose to assemble a handpicked team of all-star producers, including Dark Child. Oh, she did work with Dark Child. But what songs did she work with Dark Child on? And this was like post what Brandy and him was going through. I forgot. What songs did Dark Child do? Wait, let me go back up. Maybe it'll tell me. Oh, Deja Vu and Back Up. Okay, Back Up, that's why. And Deja Vu. How did I forget that? Back Up, I don't think. Do you know about Back Up? Am I even live? Okay, I do forget. Okay, now I know. So I'm like, with Dark Child. Destiny Child worked with Dark Child. And then I was thinking like who and I've written researched the jumpin' and that had nothing to do with Dark Child. So I'm like maybe it was like a solo record on a Destiny Child song, a Destiny Child album. No. Okay, so anyways. LaShawn Daniels, Jay Z, Pharrell. The magic happened at New York's whatever Hell's Kitchen, now defunct Studios. There, Beyonce and Goose blocked out several rooms for 3 to 4 weeks, consistently working on double-digit hours and spontaneously crafting a full album during what a time meant to be the superstars' month-long post-Dreamgirls vacation. Beyonce has spent half a year dedicating herself to the role of Dina Jones in the Oscar-winning film, which demanded her to assume a softer vocal tone. Um, traces of Dina echoed across BDay, not so much musically, but in the way that Beyonce belts each BDay track as if someone's threatening to snatch her final breath away. She performs the album with the unmistakable intensity of someone learning the depths of their own power and loving every minute of it. As her career was flourishing in both music and film, Beyonce also stepping into her own as executive during this recording process. Okay, why are we bringing up House of Dairy? I don't care. Max Drews. Oh, okay, here we go. Max. Before I entered the world of Beyonce, I was in the world of Matthew Knowles. He met me while I was in A&R for West Coast at Epic Records. As I am B2K. Okay, I really don't care. I wish I could remember what exactly Beyonce told me. I wish I could remember when Beyonce told me she was working on a new album. I was doing a lot at that time, working with Wind and Fire, Shaka Khan. Cool. Okay, all these other labels. Thanks, Matthew. That's probably why she was able to go away and like do whatever, because he was focusing on her, and she was supposed to be on vacation. I remember B Day being spontaneous. Beyonce requested a meeting with me, and we discussed going into the studio during a month-long vacation. She booked after rapping Dream Girls. She was very open to collaborating with other songwriters, which was cool as an A&R guy because I could bring in writers I really respected and admired. She signed off on all my top choices and directed me to block out several rooms. Okay, thanks. She wanted to get out. The thing was empowerment. She was also working on her House of Darion collection, so a lot of meetings would happen at her house, where she took care of her other businesses. Sean Garrett. They were still to go work on Dreamgirls. Oh. Her being in and out gave you a glimpse of how hard she worked and how difficult it was to balance being an actress and music superstar. I remember her being very enthralled with the idea of being a woman while making BDay. Mama Tina was around a lot too. She was Beyonce, but she wasn't this Beyonce that she is now. She still had a lot. She still had the super eye of the tiger. She was very, very determined to make her mark as one of the greatest ever. Makiba Riddick Woods. The group of people she brought together for this particular project vibed together so well that before any of us knew it, there was a whole album. We started creating, and the sound just developed on its own. Beyonce would be in the hallway hearing a track being made by one of the producers, and it would inspire her to come in the room like, okay, they're doing this, we need to write this. B-Day's direction formed from her being inspired by what the producers were doing. Swiss Beats, I've always been a fan. I always knew that there was some chemistry between Beyonce and me. Starting to check on it. What? And me being family with Jay. We always said we had to do something together. I remember working in Sony Studios, getting a phone from Max. B wants you. I'm like, okay, I'll be at Sony, whatever. We're in Sony too. Riddick Wood says it was definitely competitive. Beyonce would be visiting everybody's room at the end of the night to see who came up with what. Everybody was trying to get the hits and the singles. And it turned out to be, you know what's funny? Okay, I'll give it three. But like, Deja Vu did pretty well. Irreplaceable, of course, did well. And then Ring the Alarm did semi okay. After that, I feel like everything flopped off of B Day, which was so weird. But then also, as a consumer, as a fan, I would, back then you were some, what's the word? Synonymous? Music videos and singles were synonymous with each other. So then after she put out the anthology, and I think like Viva, not Viva at the time. I think her like maybe her YouTube page had all the possibly. I think her YouTube page had all of the music videos on them. I didn't know what was a single. So when Irreplaceable, and I think the anthology came out after Irreplaceable, but or Irreplaceable came out after the anthology. I don't remember. I know it was like the last single or the last the last single that did well. But after the anthology came out, I had no idea what was a single and what wasn't. Not that I cared, and not that she particularly performed other songs, other singles around. I think like Get Me Bodied, and then Green Light. I think Green Light was a single. But after like Get Me Bodied on the BET Awards, like I think she went on tour, so she wasn't really. And then she sang Irreplaceable all the time. So the the single wise, B Day did okay, but like single wise, yeah, B Day did it did okay. But then I Am Sasha Fierce. I believe all the videos were singles. All the videos had like the single attachment to it. Everybody went to singles. The camaraderie and competitiveness helped bring out the best of everybody. Garrett, when we were up against the wall after we were up against the wall after Dangerously in Love. I would go downstairs and work with Swiss, bringing up records upstairs while she was going out during her movie shoots. She would come back in and ask what we got and start cutting records. It was definitely a healthy competition. LaShawn Daniels was going crazy with Ronnie Jerkins, and then they only had like two songs. So I was just like, damn, how much or what other, or maybe some of the other tracks. No, because they would have said it on, because she did that re release. What was that re release called? B Day. the re-release. I don't know. Solange was there. Angie was there. Everybody had a respect. Swiss B says, I felt like I was against every. I felt like I was against everybody. I had to step up to the plate in a different way. I was definitely competitive in that part. Okay, nobody cares. We get it. We get it. Competitive. Competitive. Beyonce's sophomore album wasn't simply a birthday celebration set to record. It also laid the foundation of Queen Bee's present day prioritization of exploring her family history and legacy, diligently archiving and re illuminating black music history along the way. Look no further than those of Sugar Mama, a favorite of Prince's pulls from Jake Wade, and the Soul Searchers 1968. Soul Searching, wait, Sugar Mama and Prince? Okay, Soul Searching for Upgrade You. Maybe I'm mixing those. Okay, so Upgrade You, Lips, Brady Wright single, Girls Can't Do What Guys Do, and Resentment nods to Curtis Mayfield's Superfly standout. BDay isn't a pastiche album, and Beyonce doesn't simply coast on the strength of her samples. Instead, she pulls the 70s into the conversation with the 2000s, incorporating hip hop by way of Jay Z features, bounce music, and Get Me Bodied, and country pop with Irreplaceable. Um, okay, maybe. I wouldn't have called it that because it does give R&B pop still. I mean, a guitar makes it country, whatever. And it comes down to her voice. An instrument malleable and dexterous enough to belt to the rafters on pounding up tempo tracks and affiliates. Oh, that's pretty much the whole. Where are we going? She navigated toward the brass sound and the in your faceness at all. Swiss B says the sound she was going for definitely called for more live instrumentation, but definitely of what she does is so high by default that it doesn't feel like a shift into real music. She also had that throughout her work. He just seems like he's just talking. I don't think he's focusing on what is being specifically talking on at hand. That's a different kind of artist Beyonce is, says Keon Harold. She could have easily been Seth Horns. It started off as that, but she had the integrity to keep the music living and the unique for a pop icon now. I learned so much from her as a singer during this time because I wondered, how do you do that for hours and hours on end? I remember one day she sang so much that she started to lose her voice. I'm classically trained, so I suggested that she rested her voice, rest because I didn't want her to blow out her voice. And she said, "Oh no, I'm gonna sing through it. My voice is gonna get back. Watch, you'll see." And sure enough, she sang harder and she sang more, and her voice came back even stronger. She's such a top tier singer that she was like, "Hey, I know my voice. That's definitely. I wish she would talk more about her voice a little bit more. She's been, a little bit more chatty about her voice now, and like the documentaries and stuff. Um, but her voice to me is so incredible, and I am shocked at it, and it's also like I'm just as like somebody who loves music and singers and singing. The voice will always heal itself. The voice can heal itself. You can always get your voice back, or get most of your voice back. Thinking about Whitney and Patty and Aretha a little bit, and Shaka Khan. All these singers that have gone through rough times in their vocal history, you definitely can get your voice back and get it back into good shape. Um, She definitely loves big drums and big beats. Also about her voice, I vividly remember, or maybe it's still on the Wikipedia page. I remember a review about Resentment was like, she's over singing and she's doing too much on this song and she needs to calm it down and yada yada yada. And I'm just like, Resentment is funny because it's a lot, but it's really good vocals and it's like an explosion. It's like a build up and then it's this explosion, and then live it's even better with the build up and the explosion, and then the cool down. Resentment is a really good gem in her catalog. She likes big drums, big beats, and she's obsessed with post production. Beyonce is always tinkering with her vocals. Sometimes we'll cut a song. I'll come back and she's been adding new harmonies here and there. She just never stops. We also did a couple of records that were on some straight Houston vibes. I screwed her vocal deep to match the Chop the Screwed Houston thing. There was, okay, now when he said, okay, now we got to go into the vault and see what she's talking about. I'm like, I think one day they'll probably open the vault, sort of like what Prince's estate is doing. I think one day we might hear stuff, but I feel like a lot of her leaked demos or songs are from like the early years, like Dangerously in Love, a little Sasha Fierce. That's pretty much all we have. She's not that type of collaborator that's like my way or the highway. She's constantly fielding opinions, and that's the standard way. That's the standard way good collaboration works. Of course, we went back and forth on lines. Let's not say that. Let's move this line here. Nothing was different because it was Beyonce. She really engrossed in the collaboration experience. That's not what I said, but I'm just reading it like that. Okay, here we go. For example, she had written most of Kitty Cat before I got there. That was all her. People need to know Beyonce is a writer. I know there's a lot of conversation over the years, but I've seen her write. I've seen the ideas and concepts she has. She'll give them to us and we'll write them around them. A lot of times that's where songs start from a dope concept. Freakum Dress was another concept that she came up with based on how the music made her feel. We were talking about going out and making a man jealous and all of that writing. It just starts conceptualizing first before you get into the nitty gritty of the lyrics and the rhythm and the pre-chorus. I love the would you call it a pre-chorus or pre-bridge of Freakum Dress. She has never performed the pre wait, yeah, that part. The wait, no. I can't even think of it. But like the pre-bridge of Freakum Dress is my favorite, and it's one of those build-ups. I think that's what a lot of B-Day has, like sort of these build-up moments, and then explosions in the bridge, and then the cool down, or it'll settle down. But she's never performed Freakum Dress fully, which I'm just like, when are we gonna get Freakum Dress fully? I love Freakum Dress. That's one of the best songs on the album. Um, Beyonce always started with her songs, and then she would come up with these crazy melodies. She's her own vocal producer, but just singer to singer. I remember being like, "You want to sing that in full voice all the way through?" That's what they said. She's lipping on some of the B-Day live songs. After B-Day, I think more people started respecting live elements in R&B again. Almost everything was programmed at that point, but the live instrumentation, you can hear different progressions and that come out of the church. I wasn't paying attention like that. Deja Vu started the first single, applying a funkier live edge to the Crazy in Love formula. But as Darkchild remembers it, that the 2003 hit was 2003 hit wasn't really talked about in the B-Day session. She was moving on from that DC go-go sound that Rich Harrison was so good at to something a little bit more musical by upbringing in live horns instead of chopping samples. But it's not like she kept going on, like she doesn't have another Crazy in Love song, especially on Dangerously in Love. Baby Boy is totally different. Naughty Girl is totally different. Be With You is totally different. The other, I'm trying to think, what are the other up tempos? Hip Hop Star is completely different. So I'm just like, what are you going here? Or I don't know. They're just comparing, I guess. The Jay Z assisted track reached number four. Oh, that was like number three on the Hot 100 and two Grammy nominations, while also topping the okay, whatever. Dark Shot. I was in South Jersey when I got the call. I specifically remember telling me they were looking for some tempo. I already worked with her on Say My Name. By the way, side note, I remember recently he came out and he was like, or he's been saying this for years, but now I've been more intrigued. He was like, Say My Name sounded completely different. It sounded more, I think he said, more of the European clubs that they were dealing with, and that inspired him during that time. And during the mixing, he went back and kept the same vocals and just reworked the song, the music around the song, around the vocals. And I'm like, well, what did it sound like before this? Because the Say My Name we know now totally fits the writing on the walls aesthetic sound aesthetic. So I'm like, what did it sound like before? Anyways, and now post Crazy in Love. So she had established herself as a solo artist, and she was driving. She was the driving force behind it all. She really wanted musicality and rhythm. Okay, they just keep saying the same thing over. Before I linked with Rodney for the B-Day sessions, I was sending him track ideas, very energetic, 80s vibes, lots of Quincy Jones and Brothers Johnson. I was making lots of Motown-based tracks before we got together. I remember leaving the studio around 11 p.m. with John to drive to 7-Eleven. We were listening to this Michael Jackson off the wall and I said, what if we get Beyonce something in this realm, something really musical with live horns in the way Quincy Jones. Beyonce wanted B-Day to feel urgent. She wanted me to do something that was very out of the norm. And that's where Deja Vu comes in. Okay, the record started with the bass and then Rodney played the keys. I wanted a gospel group from Philly to do the horns, but that fell through. It started with me playing with the horn. Okay, like give me an interview and then give me a live interview and then cut some of the sound. I was contacted by Max Goose for the 10th time, and Deja Vu was a demo I did with Kelly Nicole Price, Delisha Thomas, and Rodney. We were this huge writing team camp a year prior, and we probably did 50 songs. Deja Vu was the last demo we did before everybody left. We were originally we originally gave them to another artist, but afterwards we had a session with Beyonce at the studio, Sony Studios. We played her a bunch of songs, Deja Vu. Okay, I'm getting bored talking about this. Are you in New York? She didn't go into the booth. She cut the record in the control room. Okay, wait, let's do back. Are you in New York? Can you come down to the studio? I was like, yeah. But in my mind, I was like, Beyonce, no, this can't be real. This is not happening at the time. Okay, so she ended up cutting it in the control room. The song was made for her, honestly. Her range made it what it was. I played it for Beyonce in New York City. She thought it was fire. And she said, I'm going to put Jay on it. Honestly, Jay's verse is like slightly confusing, but whatever. She really liked Deja Vu. She kind of always knew it was going to be the lead single, especially when she started thinking of putting Jay on it. We weren't even thinking about making a radio single. We were just thinking about making a good song. You know, and that's so interesting. Back then, that's kind of how they maneuvered. Like, we gotta make a radio single. We gotta make the single. We gotta make the single. We gotta make the first single. And it's like, I feel like that's a lot of pressure to, and it would probably like drive you a little insane to be so specific, and to be so successful with the specific, specificity, whatever you call it. We also weren't thinking about Crazy in Love. She was moving on from that DC Go Go. Why did I just skip? Why are they back talking about this? Okay, let's move on. Let's move on from Deja Vu because I'm sick of it. Ring the Alarm was the first one I did. You can hear the urgency and the competitive in the track. Why are they repeating the same stuff? Okay, it was which was so aggressive versus something like Give Me Body, where I was more comfortable in the flow of things. Beyonce and I went back and forth on Ring the Alarm a lot, just making it feel and sound raw as possible. Garrett was there too. Ring the Alarm set a new standard for how aggressive women can be on a pop. It's not offensive. Okay, I'm laughing because people say Keyless did like some kind of ring the alarm type song like a couple years before this. So I'm just like, that's not nice to say, but whatever. Do what give her the credit. Who gonna be screaming like that? At first, she was like, "Trust me." The intensity of the song, ring the alarm. Where's Beyonce? Can we get her? Can we get her quotes for these songs? Like this, like you didn't reach out to her, sir. Ringing the alarm, breaking Beyonce's Hot 100 top 10 streak at the time didn't make us nervous at all. It was a specific kind of record, and it made a statement. It was also like Grammy nominated too, which I was like, oh. There was no concern about that. There were 320 million people in America, but there's only 7 billion in the world. Every campaign had like a worldwide philosophy, so we weren't always thinking about how singles performed in America specifically. Irreplaceable. Let's move on, thank God. Irreplaceable started as just an idea. Let's do something where we blend hip hop style drums and acoustic guitars. That's what I'm like. Uh, this country pop. Like, what are you talking about? Something was an idea radical at the time. We reached out to somebody in their guitar and blah blah blah. Somebody, Bajorland. Let me say their name, Bajorkland. And I did a lot of work with Stargate because we were all in the region and from the same management. Tor had gotten an idea from Rock Nation's Jay Brown to blend a folksy guitar, acoustic guitar with an urban beat. No one had really done that before. We were doing a lot of acoustic guitar driven things back then. I'm confused where this is going because Neo wrote the song. We agreed it sounded fresh and we liked the melody, but we didn't know what to do with the make of the song. We also started working with Neo around the time. He really listens to what's going on in the music, so we felt he was right. He was the right. Oh, okay, so the conception was before she got a hold of it because, as we know, Irreplaceable. The demo is online, and it's exactly the same as the final track. So he came up with the verses and the chorus very quickly and very confidently. There was no doubting where the melody should go. I did not write Irreplaceable specifically. Here we go. Here we go. I did not write Irreplaceable specifically for Beyonce. I wrote with the intention of singing it my effing self. Initially, Once we finished it, something didn't feel right. It needed to be sung by. Oh, well, yes. I mean, never mind. Maybe he reworked the pronouns because I'm just like, what? We shopped it around for a couple of other female artists who all turned it down because they didn't really understand it. I remember Fantasia was going to record the song at one point. Ty Ty Smith brought a demo version of Irreplaceable table, and because it was mostly acoustic, we weren't really sure if it was going to make it. Once Beyonce cut her vocal, I got Stargate to remix it a few times to fit the vibe of the album. Now, we cut Irreplaceable demo at Sony Studios in New York. When I walked in, there was no drums on the track yet, just the guitar part. I thought we were doing something for a country artist, so I wrote the song. And a bit later, Stargate added that drum and fleshed the whole thing out. Between the cadence and the storytelling, it was a country hybrid song. Okay, whatever. Beyonce cut her vocals by herself. When Neo wrote the top line, the to the left reframe was not there. Oh, okay. That was part of the verse. After he left, we moved it to the intro, which left a bit empty. And then Beyonce took the song and ran with it. She made a whole breakdown in the bridge and added stacks of harmonies. Did she? Maybe. Because Irreplaceable was a pretty simple song, so maybe I'm overthinking it. That became the most memorable part of the song. Her voice was the missing piece. We heard it with my voice, but we knew we were supposed to love it. We needed a strong, confident female vocal voice to deliver the message. Thanks. Okay. Land. I told Swiss Beats convinced. I told Swiss convinced. I was told Swiss convinced Sony to keep it replaceable. Really? On the hour in the 11th hour. On the album in the 11th hour. Right before they sent the album into mass production, the label thought the song didn't fit with the album's theme. But Swiss's. Oh, that's interesting. But Swiss's shocked and recommendation were enough to save it. I vaguely remember listening to the near final version of the album, and when Irreplaceable came on, it balanced everything. It definitely did because at that there was no slowdown. Everything was what did she say? Urgent. Everything was up tempos, and I think Aretha Franklin. I haven't listened. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Aretha Franklin's jump to it also like in terms of like the balance. Okay, let me just go off. Aretha Franklin's Jump to It is like the perfect album of like a dance. Like it reminds me of like a BDay, and then it reminds me, BDay and Fantasia's. I think the Fantasia album, and then um, Rhythm Nation. Like Jump to It to me is like the blueprint. Maybe even um, Donna Summer's Once Upon a Time, or yeah, Once Upon a Time. That album, like, you gotta have a balance on these dance records and these like up tempo songs. If you have so many up tempos, you need like a good two, 1 to 2 cool downs, 1 to 2 ballads to even the whole thing out. Where did B Day even end with? I can't even tell you. Cause I like the mixing is. I haven't listened to it fully. I haven't listened to the standard version in like decades, 20 years. We're going on 20 years. So I had a computer and like it was on there like on the computer. Um, but you definitely need that these up tempos and you need something to cool it down. That good balance. Although she's exploring a breakout on Give Me Body, no, Give Me Body still was like up in there. Sirens on Ring the Alarm. Irreplaceable grounded the whole thing. I forgot about that, but I remember now. I think Irreplaceable took everybody by surprise. If someone says that was a part of the master plan, I don't believe them. You don't put a song as track 9 on the album and release it as a third single. That's the other thing. Those other songs, Green Light, um, Deja Vu, Ring the Alarm, those are like top 5 on the album. Tracks on the album. Irreplaceable was not one of our initial single choices. It was one of the sleepers on the album. When you launch an album with an artist as exciting as her, you try to go up tempo. Well, all the songs are okay. There are a lot of done dope up tempos on BDay, so we were excited about those records, and we knew Irreplaceable had a wide appeal from a sonic standpoint. Shock me. Most of the songs I wrote on that landed on BDay, like Flaws and All, we were written for Britney Spears. So I was keeping them fairly simple. He does not mind dropping a name. But when Beyonce got a hold of them, she just has that voice and the aura that makes things click. So no matter what she's saying, it's going to go. I often think about her performance of Irreplaceable at the American Music Awards. I think it was the first time she performed it. It had someone to have someone like her stand there with no choreography or big concept and just sing the song and get that kind of reception. Well, no, I think she had like the little concept with the guy. It's the power that of the song. Whatever. They didn't think it was a black artist. The danger of doing stuff like Irreplaceable is that it could have fallen between chairs. If it doesn't fit on the R&B or pop or country radio, did it even play on the country radio? Like, let's be serious. Coming from Europe, Irreplaceable freed us from being locked into a specific genre. Okay, let's move on. Oh, Gimme Body was a single too. Sixth and final single. Gotcha. Yeah, like they didn't do well. Oh, but then we did come back with Beautiful Liar, but that was on the re-release. Okay, She Love New York, Upgrade You and Diva, everything on songwriting, should have given track doing the hook, and automatically started making dances to it that helped us write. I go into work on B-Day, and boom, everybody's working on the record. Rodney's upstairs, Sean. You want to hear where we are with it. I didn't want to hear anything. I wanted to start Slate because if I heard, you know what, these producers, I think I'm done here. I think I got everything. Okay, I remember Solange joining us on Give Me Body session for the chant at the end when they're all doing all the different dances, and we was like, "Yo, wait till we add this part." Everybody gonna be wanting to do the dance. And this was before TikTok. She was already thinking about the dance and how people can communicate with the record and dance level, not only on a sonic level. Bree truly likes to sing. I've worked with so many different artists, but she never complains about stacking vocals. If you listen to the bridge, the vocal arrangement is like a gospel hymn. Like I'm gonna go back and listen to it. It's like a spur of the moment from just trying different things. Those were really an out of the thin air type vocals because those chords ain't even in there. Resentment. Getting an official single release or music video. It didn't. It didn't. That was crazy. That was a weird choice. That was a weird choice. It was a Victoria Beckham song that she shelved her for her second sophomore album. Beyonce covered "Resentment," making it the only proper B day. Oh yeah, okay. I forgot about. Wait, I think it is with resentment, right? I don't remember. I should go. I should could easily look that up. Um, Resentment was one of the biggest records I've ever written in my life. I always thought that in the right hands, it could be a game-changing song for anybody. Cool. Sullivan in 2003, we cut it on three different artists. Jasmine Sullivan recorded it first, and then another artist whom I can't remember, and then Victoria Beckham was last. Hers was interesting. That was a song that definitely sold for different. That song was sold 4 different times. Jasmine was between labels and deals at the time, so I think the song back. Jay Brown, who runs Rock Nation, with Jay Z, was managing Victoria Beckham at the time. He loved him. Wow. I had been in contact with Max Goose and Matthew through working with Trinity. Max told me he was working on Beyonce's new album and asked if I had anything. I told him, come by the studio, and I played him a few records. I learned one of the worst things to do as a writer producer is to present an artist records that sound like the ones they've been touring for the past 2 years. He thought what I played was cool, but Beyonce was looking for something more left field. So I played Resentment. And Max closed his eyes immediately. On the record finished, he said, don't play, burn that, don't play no more. At the time, we were still burning CDs. Oh, so I was like, wait, what? So I just did that, and we got a copy over to Beyonce, and she was aware of it and heard the other version. Still wanted to cut Resentment. Sony, I wasn't there, but Beyonce cut this vocal a Sony Sony during an unscheduled session. It was the same melody from Candace's vocal, but when B sent her version back, she added a modulation and tricked out the background vocals. I would never modulated the record, but that's just the genius of Beyonce. She's the icon of the arts. I thought her vocal control was amazing, and the nuances of her intonation and placement were so good. Singing is a very different thing today. People hear you do runs, and you can say you can sing, but by definition, singers can just stand flat-footed and sing without any acrobatics. Okay. No matter who I spoke to in the business, they always mention this song that this wasn't a single, but remained their favorite. I'm glad it wasn't a single. I don't know how well it would have been if it was, thinking overall in, 2026, how well that song would have done if it was a single. Even though she wasn't a, Even though she wasn't vocal about her vocal performance was indicative of her being able to relate to the song, even though she wasn't vocal about her personal life. Okay, the album. Beyonce came with the concept of going back to and family history in New Orleans. And she had a clear vision of emulating Bridget Bardot. I researched 50s fashion. The album was nearly finished when we started working on the artwork. And she kept stressing how different the music was from Dangerously in Love and calling out references to Spanish moss, mahogany. Okay, and Diana, I can see that. I can see that. It was her. It was actually her idea to do the last minute swamp shoot with the alligators for Ring the Alarm. Kind of how high fashion models do with Doberman dogs. I even presented her with a physical book of different options, and she picked Max. That is such a standout picture. And that House of Dairy, oh, House of Darion, that's how this fits into it. Because I'm like, why do they keep bringing up House of Darion? And that House of Darion swimsuit and the big BDay hair and those giant stilettos and the alligators. That is like I always like just stared at that photo for all the time. Wow, I can't believe this is real. They flew down to New Orleans a month before the shoot to scout a location in the swamp. I had been there at least 3 times before to shoot the New Orleans Jazz Fest. And it really, really changed. But the locals were so excited, so we lessened the security for the shoot and had them take photos with her. She was out there in the swamps until the mosquitoes ate her up. Ah. Beyonce always got to the location earlier than all of us. We were in New Orleans right after Hurricane Katrina, so none of the hotels were open. Interesting. That's so interesting too. So none of the hotels were open, and then the production companies were closed. New Orleans is known for movie productions, but at that time everything was gone. Beyonce wanted to have a local Cajun restaurant as catering, but not many were available, and not everybody had the website back then. So producers worked hard to make. Wow, wow. Beyonce chose the standard cover, but my favorite was the deluxe cover. She picked the one with her hair up, like Bridget Bardot, and it definitely was more iconic than the one I liked. She loved the duality of the strength of the softness and covers portrayed. The final album artwork, where she's looking off camera, wasn't originally designed as a cover. Oh, okay. That's a deliberate select she pulled. Okay. It's very powerful cover. The transition from young girl's pop star to female authority. I also created Beyonce's new font and logo for the BDay era. We found the base of the logo on the street. I used to take pictures of everything that caught my eye back then and stockpiled it. Cool, 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 cool. Yeah, BDay is like one of my favorite photos. The blank stare, the off camera stare, that's one of my favorite. Oh, they're bringing up Sugarland. You guys remember that Sugarland at the American Music Awards? I love Sugarland at that time, and when they did that, that was such a fun moment. That's all I gotta say. This was a lot of repetition. Um, could have edited this down way more. Neo had, Neo has a little attitude. You can definitely tell. Okay, here we go. Let's see what Matthew says. I'm proud that Beyonce has started this journey, and I don't think she's anywhere near her destination. B-Day, along with Dangerously in Love and I'm Such a Fear, set the foundation for her solo career. I think we'll start hearing a lot of artists sample B-Day tracks in a few years. Hopefully not, but okay. It's about that time in the musical cycle. Beyonce gave her fans a present, and okay, but they're gonna just be like most of the songs on there. Most of the well, like 3 or 4 songs are 3 or 4 or 5 songs are samples. So they're just gonna be sampling the sample, as Prince said. Thanks for listening. That was a lot.